This is Sarah Jones with Jason Eastley on the Politicus Pod for Politicus USA's The Daily. You are here with us in the aftermath of the shocking news that President Joe Biden is stepping aside in the re-election campaign, the 2024 campaign. We're here. We're gonna get into this. Make sure you subscribe to our free so you don't miss any episodes, and a shout out to our paid subscribers because they make it possible to keep a lot of essential information free for everyone who can't afford it. And that is really important right now in the lead up to now an even more tense election. So, Jason.
Well, I was going to start by asking you how you're feeling.
That's a mistake because I will answer it.
Go ahead.
And
That's
it's
why we're here.
gonna be brutal. Yeah, I'm gonna put aside my professional, take off the professional hat for a moment, if you guys could bear with me. I've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of texts from women around the country, and they are more angry than I have ever heard any of them. And they have all told me this is the angriest they've ever been in their lives. And I'm talking about women from the age of 80 to in their 30s. They are to be angrier than you've ever been in your life at this point because of this, what feels like this huge betrayal. I mean, we watched the media trying to push Joe Biden out.
That didn't work.
That didn't work. Then the donors stepped up and a lot of the pundits really started pushing that. And then these elected Democrats in the House really started feeding the media a lot of cowardly messages and we know in the Senate those were on behalf of the wealthy donors. So it just seems like a lot of people worked really hard to turn out and vote in these primaries, and that was irrelevant because the elites didn't want Joe Biden around. And I'm afraid that the issues they all claimed they had with him, which was his age, will now get turned into issues about Kamala Harris's gender and her race. So to me, people who judge somebody based on things like that have nothing to do with the content of their character and their job performance, which, by the way, Kamala Harris has been on top of her game this entire time as vice president. And I see a lot of people in the media saying she doesn't do anything, blah, blah. That's complete hogwash. And she's out. We get the reports every day from the White House. She's out there working her bum off. So she's a great candidate. And on that note, I personally am very excited to have a woman. But before I can get to that moment, I'm here with my grief. I'm here with this anger that I don't think is ever going to go away. And I was sharing with you earlier, and I'll just say it now, for everyone at home, don't tell your wife that she doesn't need to be upset about this. That's not a good thing to say right now. Because I am hearing from people who are being, and I've seen that even on social media too. Like I don't think people can understand, because women are the people who's understand just fundamentally that their rights were at risk. They're the ones that have been out there voting since Roe was overturned. So they understand what's at stake in this election in a way that I don't think that people who aren't facing that kind of issue can understand. In other words, Black people understand it, people of color understand it, LGBTQ community understands it. Like there's and I'm looking at you, you're a white man. I'm not trying to say like it doesn't bother you. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I do think that it's hard for people to, oh, here goes, thank you. Thank you for the, thank you for the morning. I do think that it goes to the heart of something for women that I cannot articulate right now, but I know I'm hearing from women around the country. I know they feel this. And then to get on Twitter and see Katie Tour smiling over this when she has been pushing for this the entire time, and she has some kind of contempt for Joe Biden that is unwarranted while she's praising Donald Trump as so serene. I don't have the stomach for this. I guess that's what I'm saying. So that's how I feel. I don't have the stomach for the victory laps that folks are taking who have nothing at stake in this election and who stepped on the votes of the Democratic base, which, as I've said before, are the systemically and historically oppressed people. So I find that exceptionally troubling, and the way I feel about the Democratic Party right now is not so great. And I personally could burn it to the ground. So, does that answer the question? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, the last part of it. Yeah, that pretty much covered it, I think.
Yeah.
You know, there are factions of the Democratic Party that you and I have always known existed. That the image many Democrats put out there isn't who they really are or what they're motivated by.
Right.
Because we don't just write about these people all the time. We deal with their staffs. We sometimes deal with them. So we know that honestly, these people are what you're seeing isn't often the real person,
Yeah.
but something put out there for political purposes. That doesn't mean it's completely inauthentic. It just means that I think people can sometimes get attached to the image that's presented to them. So when, for example, an Adam Schiff comes out with a letter saying Biden has to go, and people feel really betrayed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not picking on Adam Schiff. I'm just saying there are
Please.
dozens of Democrats like
Please
that.
proceed and
well,
pick on Adam Schiff all you want.
Well, it's hollow, callous, self-serving political behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And most politicians, quite honestly, especially in the House, are most motivated by saving themselves. Schiff is running for Senate. Schiff wants to be a senator more than anything himself. So he tried to push Biden out because he thought Biden would hurt his Senate chances. Even in deep blue California.
Well,
yeah.
But don't
And
forget.
let's talk about the blue state. That's what I get into. The blue state Democrat or the red state Democrats that now I'm all confused. The red state Democrats that have cast for Biden to step aside. Sherrod Brown and John Tester. That's a little bit of a different case because Democrats are smart. They know that their red state members have to survive. It's a normal election year kind of thing where you'll see these Democrats distance themselves from whatever the party leadership is.
Right, but just to go back to Schiff for a minute, like I think when you parse out where a lot of this was coming from, there was a lot of it coming from California, and we know that the tech bros do not want Democrats in office in the White House because of they don't want the regulation of crypto. They don't want a lot of the things that Joe Biden has been doing. Frankly, they're against that. And I'm not sure what these Democrats think. If these people are not going to turn around and vote for any other Democrat. So are we just going to keep hearing about this for each person, each candidate? It's not going to be good enough. They're going to keep tossing people because the tech bros want them.
I think the tech bros are going to be much happier with Kamala Harris as the nominee. I think that you're right. I think it's always been about what they want. I think the money, then a lot of the push behind this was coming out of California. A lot of those members that put their letters on, Zoe Lofgren represents Silicon Valley in the House.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi, California, big Silicon Valley supporter. You can go the whole way down the line. And you can see that a lot of this was coming from Trump has promised to deregulate crypto. And that got the Elon Musks of the world all excited and the other crypto people. And then the crypto Democrats were like, well, why can't we have some of that too? And if you're not going to give us any of that, if you're going to try to regulate us, well, you're going to have to go.
So, but why do you think they're going to be fine with Kamala Harris, who seems like, are you saying that she would have different policies?
Yeah, she's going to be a little more friendly to them. Biden's Biden's regulators were really coming down hard. I'm not saying she's going to go light on them. I'm just saying that there's already a working relationship there from her being Attorney General of California. She knows the strengths, she knows the weaknesses of the whole thing.
I mean, so let me just say, to me, as somebody who's always thinking about the voters first, that's a really, not in terms of Kamala, but in terms of Democrats catering to these people,
Yeah.
that's a big turnoff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, could you be bigger losers? I don't,
I mean, this was a total special interest case.
exactly.
And not just in crypto, but I mean, all these rich Democrats that
Yeah.
are pushing this, these elites,
Yeah.
they all have agendas.
And they're mostly white men.
They're white men, yeah, and they want
who are
power.
wealthy, who want power. And, you know, we have already got into this, but a lot of the stuff was coming from a lot of the Obama people
Yeah.
that worked for Obama, the pod.
And they've had a long-running dispute with the Biden people that goes back to the 2008 campaign on the trail. They never meshed. They never got along. And that just carried over into the president's office and the vice president's office.
And again, like, I really don't care about these
Yeah.
people's personal feelings and their lives and their issues. I care about the voters. So these people should all grow up. If you're being paid big money to work in politics and you're being paid by the voters, so get over your own self and do your job for the people. So,
I think we need to discuss why this really happened.
okay, yeah, I don't want to, but yes.
Well, we need to discuss I bring this up all the time and everybody seems to have forgotten. If you remember the Bernie Sanders Hillary Clinton primary in 2016, we remember it because we were at the convention that year. After that, the DNC, which was at the time led by Tom Perez and Keith Ellison, after the new leadership turned over, sat down with Sanders, sat down with Biden, actually, and Obama and the whole crew, and they all agreed to get rid of the superdelegate system. Who did the superdelegate system benefit? Elites. The superdelegates themselves were elites, and to remind everybody what the system was, the Democratic voters named a percentage of the delegates, and then there was this big pot of superdelegates who were not elected by the voters, but they got an equal vote as the voters asking to who gets to be the nominee. That's a whole lot of power.
Right.
And in 2018, everybody sat down, and one of the good things, no matter how you feel about what Bernie did in the 2016 campaign, one of the good things that came out of his run was they reformed the primary process. And so the primary process was given to the voters. Now, that seems like no big deal, but then COVID came in 2020, and everything fell into place quickly for Biden because of the new reforms. When Biden started getting momentum after South Carolina, he was able to put it away pretty quickly. Now, fast forward to 2024, Biden storms through the primaries. The voters again say, we want Biden. The people that in normal circumstances, which like these 40 House Democrats or 30 House Democrats and these elected leaders and all these people that were saying Biden had to step aside, they would have been superdelegates normally. They were nobody in this.
Right. That's what this all is
this
about.
all comes down to
Yes.
controlling the party and power.
Yes. This has
And-
been a power struggle. They want power back because it was taken away from them and given to the
Yes.
voters. And this is what I keep coming back to.
And that's why you're hearing that BS about an open process to find the new nominee.
Yeah, that's BS. And that actually disgusted me. And the more people that are repeating this, people that I used to respect, it's like, we already had this process. We already
Yeah.
did this process. You don't get to tell the voters that they don't get the people they said if it's not Joe, they want Kamala.
Yeah.
So you people all need to take a seat because that is what's going to happen. That's the way it should happen. That's what is right to happen now.
Yeah.
And instead, they're doing this whole thing. I know that they're going to come up with issues they have with Kamala here if she doesn't fall into line for them and give them the power they seek. And I just don't think she's that kind of person. I don't think
I
she's
don't
gonna-
think she is either.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to cave to them. And I think that's
she-
going to be a problem.
I also think that she should be left. If she ends up being the nominee, there should be no open process to pick her running mate. She should pick her own running mate.
Absolutely.
She should have that if she's the nominee. It should not be in the convention. The convention shouldn't get to choose the VP or whatever nonsense they're thinking of. It should be very
Oh, there,
simple.
and you know what? That's another thing. Okay, wait a minute. Let me get this in because you just hit on something. The other thing that's going on here is Republicans, the never Trumper Republicans, are trying also to control the Democratic Party because they had control in the Republican Party
Yeah,
before it
they're
lost
trying to
its.
force their way
So
in.
now they're trying to control this, and I'm really glad that they work so hard to work against Donald Trump, who is a threat to our democracy and a global threat. But that doesn't mean that they are not in charge of this party. That this is not their party. These are not their voters. And I think there are other people who had so much power previously.
Yeah.
And because their party went absolutely insane, they lost some of that power by stepping away from it. And now they're like, okay, well, we're doing all this work, so we deserve to have the same power in this party. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. And this party never worked that way. Even decades ago, this has been a big tent party for a long time now, and there's always dissent. And you have
And
to let people have dissent. The Republican Party doesn't do that.
the former Republicans also are homeless right now.
Yeah.
So they're looking for somewhere to call home.
Yeah.
But they also fundamentally, like you just said, don't understand how the Democratic Party works.
They don't understand the voters, and that's what has been annoying me through this whole thing. Well, they keep imposing like this is
Yeah,
what should happen, and I'm like,
can't
you don't understand the Democratic voters.
you can't impose and anoint the Democratic voters.
Yes, exactly.
They
Does not work for the Democratic Party.
and people that are comparing this to 1968, I think are way off base.
All right, tell us more about that.
Okay. Very simply, there's a few different reasons why. The main reason is that LBJ was forced out of office in 1968 because of the unpopularity of the Vietnam War. His vice president, Herbert Humphrey, was also saddled with the unpopularity of the Vietnam War. There was an overriding issue that led to President Johnson didn't even lose, did poorly in the primary, got embarrassed, said Democratic voters don't want me, and he left. That's not what happened in 2024. There's no overriding issue here within the Democratic Party that pushed Joe Biden out the door. In fact, Democratic voters said they wanted Joe Biden.
Yeah, and every time that people were trying to push him out, the voters kept speaking up more and more and more and more. We saw that in the rally in Detroit, for example.
And since there's no predominating issue driving the Democratic dislike of the president, then Vice President Harris is not saddled with a 1968 style issue. And the Democratic Party, if we can just cut the crap for a minute,
Yeah.
is not deeply divided. On issues, on beating Donald Trump, they are not divided. What happened was some forces came in to create an artificial division to split the party because they were worried about Joe Biden's age after the debate. That is the whole crux of the issue.
Were they really worried? But let me just say, okay, I agree with what you're saying, and yet I do want to parse out, because I see a lot of these people running around smirking right now. We were worried about his age. Were they really? A lot of these people were not genuinely worried about his age. They know he's doing his job right now every single day. He's doing the job that he was running for. So I've never believed that they were genuinely worried about that.
There's been an erosion building among these people for the last year. And you're right, it wasn't his age. It was his poll numbers.
Right.
They were worried about his poll numbers. And his poll numbers, after he had a bad debate, went down. And that was their moment to pounce.
Right. That's exactly how I see it. But my point to that is that happens to every Democrat. Why? Because the Democratic Party and the people who vote Democrat, they will turn on somebody as soon as they hear the media attacking them.
Yeah.
This happens to every single Democrat. The Democratic Party needs to get a spine once and for all. And I know it's hard to have a spine when you're keeping an open mind with a big tent coalition. Those two things don't work together very well. Nancy Pelosi did pull that off for a long time. I'm less pleased with her at the moment, given what she's done here, but she was very good at that. That's something she excelled at. But this is going to happen to any candidate Democrats put forward. And I don't understand why people who claim they're political pundits are pretending that isn't going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. They're going to attack Kamala. It's going to be a sexist and a racist parade. We're going to see that, nothing but that, up until the election if she's the nominee, and I hope she is.
What's the difference between Republicans and Democrats is really simple. We talked about it in the last podcast where Republicans think the media is biased against them. So they don't trust the media. They don't believe the media is going to give them a fair shake. Now, we know that's not true, that the media is not biased against them, but that's what they believe. Democrats, and this has always been the fundamental weakness of some Democrats within the party. Number one, they believe polls way too much. Stop believing the polls. They're not gospel. They're not religion. They're snapshot. At their best, they're snapshots of a moment in time. But number two, and I hope this episode has taught them, the media is never going to give you a fair shake. Not this corporate media. They're not. Don't listen to them. Don't trust them. When they're talking to you, treat them with caution and skepticism.
That's a really good point. And
Because that is how this mess exploded. Because the donors went to the Democrats in Congress, and then the Democrats in Congress, where do you think those anonymous leaks were coming from the last 3 weeks? We know because AOC told us they were coming from members of the House. So, and if the Democratic base would not be susceptible to believing what the corporate media tells them and taking it as truth and objectivity, to stop projecting your own values of fairness onto the media. That's what I would say. But see, because Democrats are susceptible to that, and they don't act like Republicans and flip them the giant middle finger and say, "Get away from me, you biased piece of." Got a
little going on in there.
That's what Republicans do. They just go, "Get away from me, you biased piece of whatever." And
I should have asked you how you're feeling. And it's coming out now. Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to explain.
No, I'm teasing you, but you're doing a great job.
What's actually happening here,
right.
Because.
And you're right, absolutely.
Democrats fell for it, and then because Democrats always fall for it, the members of the House, backed by their donors, could go to the media, use the media as a gas can to fan this fire.
Right.
So when you want to blame that corporate media, the corporate media loves a story. They're going to go after any kind of drama, narrative storyline, whether it's based in truth or not.
I also,
But the people who really are responsible here are the people in your own party.
Yeah, that's right.
That did this.
But the media is also responsible, and I see a lot of Democrats saying, "Oh, don't they know that Trump's Gestapo is going to come for them?" No, they don't, because Trump's Gestapo will not come for them. These people make so much money.
Yeah.
They're all elites. They do not care or understand about what the average person in this country is dealing with. That's not to impugn their motives. Plenty of them really do care, or they give it their best shot to care. But if you aren't living that, if you didn't grow up that way, like Jim Acosta grew up that way, and you can see that in his coverage. He really keeps grounded with what average Americans are dealing with. And I know he works for CNN, and they have an agenda over there. But I think he just has that integrity that comes through for me, and I like his coverage. I think it's centered in pro-democracy values. So, but most of the media doesn't even understand. Like, what is it? Is it Jake Tapper? No, it's one of those. It's CNN, who grew up the son of a billionaire. Anderson Cooper, yes, and his whole Gloria Vanderbilt dynasty. No, these people don't understand what you're going through. So when he was the one, wasn't he, that lectured us to get out of our silos?
Yeah.
When we live here in a Trump world, I'm like, don't tell me to get out of my silo, dude. You live in a liberal city. Don't talk to us about getting out of our silo. We live in this world, and it's dangerous out here. That's something the media, they just don't care about. But I feel for Democrats around the country, for liberals, for independents, for Republicans who are anti-Trump, this is not a safe environment.
Okay.
I just silenced you. I do want to go back to the crypto industry. You know what that was all about? The SEC.
It was about regulation, yeah.
Yeah.
It was about regulation.
But I wanted to name the SEC because that's what they're hoping, and Trump has promised them to call off the SEC.
I just think it can't be said often enough that we don't know if Biden would have won or lost. That's the honest truth. We don't know. It's a 50-50 election. It is still a 50-50 election. And Democrats, one of the things they like to do is to get too clever by half sometimes. And I really hope they don't sit there and try to build themselves a perfect ticket that they think will theoretically work with Kamala Harris, and they pick a running mate and twist a running mate in there. We need to be aware of who really did this, why they did this, what the consequences are of doing this. I really believe that Democrats are going to get a lift out of this because they're pissed.
I was going to say that is one thing,
They're
actually.
pissed.
Yeah, they're
For
really
the
pissed.
for the first time since 2022, Democrats are engaged and they're angry.
They're pissed.
And you know what? They're smart. That's the other thing that these
Yeah.
people that pull this up don't understand. So yeah, the Democrats aren't going to leave right now. They're not going to rebel right now because they got to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The big matter at hand is winning this election. Now, once this election is won,
There's going to be a realignment, and
I wanted you to talk about that 'cause
I-
people were disagreeing with you online.
people disagreed with me. I said that on Twitter because I'm hearing so much from people who feel betrayed in a fundamental way that will not go away. I'm sorry to party leadership. I'm sorry to anyone who doesn't want to hear that, but it is a fact. You do not betray your voters on this level and expect them to stick around for you. As you said, though, luckily, the Democratic base is really, really smart. And they will show up and vote against Donald Trump. And if Kamala Harris is on the ticket, they're going to be pretty excited
Yeah.
about that. So that's a great thing. And they know that they need to vote up and down the ticket to get the changes to the Supreme Court that they want, for example.
Yeah.
That's very important. These are smart people. And you know, that's interesting, just a little sidebar. I've talked about my registering voters before in Georgia. And I primarily focused on rural areas that were mostly Black people. So this is like a rural poor kind of, and I did this up and down, like all over Georgia. It was through the summer. It was brutally hot. I will always be grateful that I had this experience because it taught me so much. And a lot of the folks that I spoke with weren't even paying attention to what was going on politically. They're not watching cable news, for example. And yet they knew they could not trust John McCain. And it isn't because Barack Obama was Black. There are plenty of Black Republicans that the Black voters don't trust. So there is something, and women have this, you're seeing this going on with women on the abortion issue right now because Republicans are trying to fool them with all the, oh no, my heart is with you on this, and I'm not really gonna push a federal abortion ban. And women are like, dude, just stop talking to me. I already know who you are, and I already know what I'm doing about it, and I'm not here to have a discussion with you. That is something that I think when people are fundamentally disenfranchised and oppressed, they begin to trust their own intuition on this stuff, and you can't fight your way out of that. So there's no way for a Republican to overcome that. There's nothing they can say because people, it's already hardened. And this goes to your point about a lot of people that were pushing for Joe Biden to step aside said, oh, it's because we need a ticket that's going to win. And why isn't he having a blowout in these? He should be blowing out Donald Trump. He's a convicted felon. And that's not how it works. And they all know better. It doesn't work that way. This is a hardened electorate, and people have already chosen their side. If you haven't chosen a quote side yet, you're either not paying attention or you're really stupid. So
That's a really important point because the actual electorate that's available out there is probably 2 to 4%. I would say 46 to 48% or something like that has already made up their mind.
And so these people that were saying that, we're thinking, we push Joe Biden out, we install our white prince, whoever that's going to be, And then all the Democratic base will go to our white prince and we'll get whoever else we're adding in. And it doesn't work that way. That was a big lie that they told to everyone in order to try to seize this power that they had been successful in seizing. And I don't know why. I wish we knew why.
Well, see, that's the funny thing. They managed to get rid of President Biden, get him off the ticket. But they didn't manage to, because with this wave of endorsements right away for Vice President Harris, I smell a deal that was made. I told you privately a few days ago, the only way I could see Biden even considering leaving is if he was assured that Harris was going to be the nominee.
You did say that.
That's the only thing I could see that might change his thinking. Because he, A, thinks that highly of Kamala Harris, and B, he wants there to be a woman black president or a woman president.
And see, that makes me cry. This man is so decent and he did so much for this country and he's always supported women. He gave us the Violence Against Women Act. And it just disgusts me that he was pushed out this way when he has done so much and been such a decent person. And not only that, but so legislatively effective and transformative. And of course, that person would make sure that Kamala Harris.
That's always been my thought process.
It makes sense. And that is, and I hope that Joe Biden gave us the first woman president and the first black woman president. That would be amazing. But it doesn't change the grief that I feel that this man was pushed out in this ugly way. I wish it had been his decision, not based on polling, when we know that, for example, that Michael Cohen offers someone $50,000 to rig polls for Trump.
Online polls.
Yeah, but still, I know that's not the same thing as...
Yeah, it's not.
I know, but it still matters. It still matters because when you see people in Trump world they get busted for something like that, there's a lot more there that has not been unearthed yet. And we've seen that time and time again. So I'm not suggesting that the polling companies are dirty, but I'm saying there's a lot of corruption going around in our political. Look at what just happened in the Democratic Party. That's corruption. So yeah, there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen here is now Democrats have basically set themselves in a position where if it's going to be Vice President Harris, the VP nominee has to come from the East. And I'm thinking it's going to be Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania.
Oh.
One of
Okay.
the three states, right?
Give us your...
I don't want to tell you if I want to read about
Go ahead.
this.
Oh,
I want, but
you'll have already written it by the time this goes out, so go ahead.
no, this is going out right away. I'm trying to get this.
Oh,
up
it
for
isn't?
today, actually,
Okay.
yeah, so, maybe
I'm over
not.
here crying on
I know.
the podcast. Okay.
Well, we'll fix that.
Fix it in post. Okay.
We can turn it into like a
No, it's authentic.
triumphant howl.
This is a triumphant, authentic moment.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Who's it gonna be?
No, I wouldn't.
Come
I
on
know
now.
who I'd like to be.
Get out with it.
But then,
Oh,
okay,
come on.
you're a Pennsylvanian like me now. Whether
No,
you're
I'm from Michigan
from Michigan
and Los
but
Angeles.
you have lived here in Pennsylvania now
And Georgia.
for a long time.
Yeah,
You've been here for 12 years.
I have. Yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it.
Then time flies. But you really understand a lot about this state's politics now.
Not as well as you do.
Very
You're from
deeply.
here, but yeah.
You're going to hear Josh Shapiro's name a lot. And boy, do we like Governor Shapiro here. We really like Josh. He works with Republicans. He gets things done. He's a heck of a guy. But man, if you want to beat Donald Trump in an election, that's not your Pennsylvanian.
Here we go. I know where this is going. And man, then you'd have like two fighters. I was gonna use another word, but yeah, you'd have two pugnacious fighters. I know where you're I know who you're going. You can't have him on the tick. You can't have two
is big, angry, and he's bald.
Okay.
And he's not afraid to speak his mind.
Right.
He connects very well with working class voters. He walked the
Okay.
picket line in Michigan with the auto workers.
That's true
He
too.
stood with Michigan striking workers in Ohio. He is from well, originally Eastern Pennsylvania. He was born, but he's basically ours in Western Pennsylvania. You want John Fetterman with Kamala Harris. If you put John Fetterman on that ticket, you've got your fighter that'll drive Trump bonkers for 3.5 months. J.D. Vance will be a grease spot on the highway because I've seen them tangle in the
Don't tempt me. Okay.
He'll be a fake hillbilly puddle of grease on the side of the road. Oozing hedge fund.
The joke is, I just want to let everybody in, if you're listening and you're not from Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania is like the end of the Appalachian Mountains, and we actually go hiking here in the Appalachians. The end of the Appalachians, not as high as what people think of it, but
through the Appalachian foothills.
yes, the foothills. So that's the joke, is that Don Fetterman would be a real Appalachian hillbilly.
The being able to J.D. Vance.
Yeah, more than
that's. I don't think it'll be John Fetterman.
I don't think so either, but that is a nice idea.
If you wanted to be sure you won Pennsylvania and you're the Democrats,
Yeah.
and you wanted somebody who's going to connect with working class white people, which is I'm already hearing angst about. Oh my God, can Kamala Harris connect with?
Wait a minute, and just
white
before,
people?
and I know I understand the political point being made there, but I just need to make the other point. Please allow me. They never ask this. We have all these white presidents over and over. No one ever says, can they connect with black voters? No one asks that question. Why, I say to you, why do you just assume that a white man can connect with everyone, but a black person cannot? Hello? A little bit of bias going on here? Is that maybe because all the newsrooms are run by white men? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Go ahead. It's just gross. But okay,
well, that's a really good point. I mean, it doesn't cut both ways.
No, it doesn't.
But as we have found with everything this year now, things do not cut both ways. Here's your fun fact of the day to take with you on this difficult day. I told you this before we came on. Donald Trump is now the oldest presidential nominee in history.
Yeah.
He's old. So every day I want to hear the media express angst and concern as they play a clip of Donald Trump claiming that sharks with batteries are going to electrocute him.
Yeah. And his Hannibal Lecter.
Obsession, which, I mean, Silence of the Lambs came out 33 years ago, right? 1991?
Oh, boy.
You're the
Donald Trump's so old.
You're the movie person.
I am, but I don't remember the date that came out.
I should know this because it was filmed here in Western Pennsylvania, but I do not.
But wait, you haven't told us who is... Okay, you went through...
I would put Fetterman on there. I think they're going to gravitate towards Shapiro if they want a Pennsylvanian. I don't think they're going to go for Gretchen Whitmer. I don't think Gretchen Whitmer's particularly interested.
I don't think that this country... I mean, my big concern about having a woman on the ticket is we've already seen how sexist this country is. At its core, voters do not trust women.
Yeah.
And so I'm concerned about that. You can't have two women. I would argue with my own self and make the point that why not? We've had two men forever.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely legitimate point. But talking about the electoral reality, yes, you cannot have two women on there. But who else can we Go ahead. You had somebody else.
Well, no, I think I've gone through my list. I haven't even gotten over to Wisconsin yet. I really don't even think. I think it's going to be, if they go for a state they need, it's going to be Pennsylvania or Michigan. And the Biden campaign has been so locked in on Pennsylvania.
They've been locked in on Michigan too, though. I mean, they've gone there a lot.
They've been faring better, according to the bogus polling, in Michigan than they have in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I could see Michigan or Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you're saying they're already doing better in Michigan, so they will want to pick up.
They'll want to definitely, because Pennsylvania has more electoral college votes than Michigan, so that's
that
the
makes
one
sense.
they would really want to go after. But I don't want to get too deep into the speculation of who it's going to be and all that, even though I saw that already trending on Twitter.
But I would the one concern I would raise about Shapiro, and I have no beef with him. He's great.
Well, we like Josh.
Yeah, but then you would have two former attorney generals.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something a little too law and order about that for my taste. I mean,
If we can be really honest about it, I mean, Josh Shapiro isn't exactly an exciting guy.
no, he gets the job done and he's really good at it, and we like him.
Gretchen Whitmer isn't exactly an exciting speaker.
Well, no, she isn't, but I think Michigan loves her. And so I would say she would bring energy, but again, we're going back to having two women. I actually like your Fetterman now. See
The
that
way you think about it, the
whole
way you
thing-
kick it around.
I think that they would bring up his stroke, and then
Yeah.
they would gag themselves over their health coverage again. But of course, the media is going to need something.
He's recovered so well from that stroke. Have you
That
seen
doesn't
anybody
matter
or
to
heard of him
them.
lately?
Look at how I know,
He
but
doesn't-
it doesn't matter to them. They're gonna go for whatever they can against the Democrat, but that would actually give them another focus that wouldn't be Kamala
Yeah.
and let her shine. And man, you know what? When you see her, when she's let loose, what she is not allowed to do as vice president, because people often would ask me, how come we never see her out front? What is she doing? It's like, that's the job of the vice president. I don't know why people expected her to be front and center the way that she could be as a senator. But that Kamala, who fought with people, fought with Republicans, fought with people who spoke over her, that woman who's fearless, she's going to make a great candidate.
And I also think her prosecutorial mind
Yes.
going up against a convicted felon.
Yeah, that's a win.
And she's never going to let anybody forget for the next 3.5 months that Donald Trump is a convicted
Now,
felon.
then if you did have Shapiro and her, that would be the other side. I said I wasn't too happy
Yeah.
with the law. I wouldn't. But the other side of that is that you have two law and order candidates up against a convicted felon.
Yeah.
That could get some.
I really like the idea of
think it dep-
somebody else with national experience, though, with her.
Yeah, I think
And
it
that's
really.
where you get into like a senator or somebody with, not a governor, but it's somebody with a higher profile that's been on the national stage.
Okay, but I think we need to look at then, or they would be looking at, who do they need to pick up, right? What voters is, if it's the white working class,
Yeah.
then you go with John Fetterman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is it the academic elites that are concerned? Because then you go with Josh Shapiro.
I don't think they're worried about losing academic elites.
Well, they should be. Academic elites are more married to their Wordle and their puzzles and their recipes on the New York Times than they are about democracy. So I'm a little concerned.
And that's the point where, if you've seen the previous episode, that's the callback to last week's
That's
episode.
that's the callback. I'm never gonna let it go, you guys. Nope.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a really hard day.
This is a hard day. Yes.
And
If you're listening to this and you're angry, you're full of grief, we're with you. You're not alone. There's a whole country that feels this way right now.
yeah, instead of feeling sad, though, I mean, channel that grief and anger. Take it out on one person.
Man, don't mansplain.
Well, I mean,
No,
we
I'm
should-
with
we
you.
should
I'm just
take it out
teasing.
on one person.
I'm
I'm
teasing.
sorry, I didn't mean to mess, but
No, you weren't. I'm teasing you
Um,
because that is like kind of what's happening right now.
yeah.
But you weren't doing
Channel
that,
that toward one person, and that's Donald Trump.
right?
Everything, I hate to make these they seem unrealistic, optimistic pronouncements, but quite literally, we have a 3.5 year track record of this. Everything gets better when Trump is gone.
Yeah. We need to put this man down for good in a peaceful way at the ballot and be done with Donald Trump. Be done with Trumpism. Be done with MAGA. And I would say, please, for the love of God, let's not do what happened with the Tea Party and the Birchers and all of this where it keeps getting recycled and rebranded and it comes back even stronger. No. Can this not be the death of this kind of radicalism taking control of one of the major political parties? Please.
And can you think of anything else that would be more fatal to Donald Trump than losing to a candidate who entered the race 3.5 months before Election Day?
And a
Trump
woman.
was so weak as a candidate.
And a woman. A woman taking Trump
A
down.
woman? Just a woman? A black woman?
I know. That
That's-
gives me a lot of pleasure thinking about that.
I mean, they would pretty much end the myth of Donald Trump forever. And Vice President Kamala Harris would make sure that Trump was prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Kamala
And-
Harris is not a spineless Democrat. She took on those banks with Beau Biden. She is not afraid of a lot of these big money interests behind the scenes.
Now, if the Democratic elites had gotten their way and pushed out Kamala Harris at the same time,
Well, we don't know that they're not going.
well,
they better
they're
not.
not going to. They're
They
not
better
going
not.
to. The
They
way
better
things are
not.
lining up, I don't know if you've checked your social media streams lately, but the way things are lining up,
I'm being trolled really badly right now. So
I meant the feeds. I'm sorry, not your feed. Oh my God.
Kellyanne Conway retweeted something of mine as though brought in all of those folks, and she was giving us a little wink. We're watching you. So I can't wait to be audited again. Thanks, Kellyanne.
You're not going to be audited again.
Not me, us.
No, we're not going to be audited again.
Okay.
So, let me get back on track. So,
You said the feeds. Checking the feeds.
yeah, everything is.
You don't think that that they're gonna
There's
kick
a-
out the Democratic elite? They're not gonna kick
There's
out.
a coordinated campaign here.
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious that to get behind Kamala Harris as soon as possible. I saw that story on CNN last night that Democrats had already agreed that if Biden leaves, they're going to quickly come around Kamala and get this over with as soon as they can.
So that's great. And what about all these pundits and the donors? Are they gonna be okay with this, or are we gonna keep hearing from the pod bros and the rich donors? And is George Clooney gonna get over his hurt? What's happening here?
Well, apparently they're going to have to be okay with it because they will have gotten what they wanted and Biden will have stepped down and they're not getting anything else. Because I think
these people make me sick.
the
Ugh.
the actual functional political element of the Democratic Party understands that Kamala Harris is the bridge between Biden and everybody else. If you don't have Kamala leading this party, the Biden people are just going to explode. And they're not going to stick around. They're not going to come and vote for whatever senator, who they find from whatever state.
Right. That's not happening. I keep trying to tell these people that is not happening. You don't tell the Democratic base who to vote for. That's not how that works.
This is a Kamala or bust situation.
Yeah.
now, and they asked for it. They wanted it.
They
Now they
made
got
this
it.
happen.
Yep.
They better step up to the table and they better open their wallets and they better get their shit together.
Yeah.
And all of these House Democrats better shut their mouths and get to work to fight for this election, because I am on, let me tell you, my eyes watch these people for the rest of my career. My eye is going to be on these backstabbing traitors that they better keep themselves together. And I hope they all get primaried.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they better win. They put us in this position. They better win. Because if this election doesn't go the Democrats' way, those people are to be blamed.
Yes, but they won't care. It won't hurt any of those people. They're all elites. They're not going to be hurt by Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to come after the very people whose votes just got taken away from them.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Now, I know you want to focus everybody on turning out to vote. Rightfully so. So take that anger, take your sadness and your grief. I have pinned on our Substack newsletter that has a lot of different ways to get involved in this election that you can do from a safe blue state. You can do it from home. Those of you that are not intimidated by neo-Nazis, please volunteer to work at the polls to protect the voters. They're going to need that. And you're laughing at me, but I'm dead serious. If you are the kind of person that's not intimidated by them, please volunteer. there are most of those people were older women that worked at and they've all been driven out by fear and they've been intimidated out. And we are going to need people protecting voters' rights at the polls. So please do volunteer for that. Yes, is there anything you want to add to that about turnout?
I
Or
thought this was your close.
it is my close. I was giving
wasn't
you.
going to interrupt. Thank you.
For one time you weren't going to interrupt me. Congratulations. And now I'm offering you the moment.
Yeah.
You had you would
But
you wait for
Ocean-
I'm for
Ocean's closing up. I would just listen to this beautiful close.
you wait till I'm speaking to have. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, God, this has been a shit show of a day.
But
I'm gutted. I'm just
The
gutted.
only good thing about this is, if it is a good thing, is relief that this is finally over. It's been 3 agonizing weeks of this. And it's rough to say, but there is a sense of relief that comes with, at least we have a resolution.
Yeah, until they bring up their concerns about Kamala Harris. And that's all coming. That's why I don't feel.
I'm going to be really honest here. I think a deal was cut. The whole nomination process is going to be rigged and they're going to fly through to Harris. That's the truth.
It's not rigged.
They're all talking
Wait a
about,
minute.
they're all talking about a quote unquote process. Sure, there's going to be a process. And no matter what that process is, it's going to end with Kamala Harris as the nominee.
Let me take apart that talking point before we leave. I have seen people saying there needs to be a process.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There was a process.
Yeah.
The voters already voted. You don't get a do again when you don't get the candidate that you want. So now it's Kamala Harris. The end. Thank you very much. Don't come back to us for money and support if you're not going to honor the will of the voters. You Trumpian little creeps.
There's not going to be a mini primary. There's not going to be an open convention. By the time the Democrats get to Chicago, we are going to know who the nominee is. And say it one more time. That nominee is going to be Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Thank you.
And that's it. So if the media is going to play into this, who the Democrats are going to pick. And by the way, I've been intentionally avoiding cable news.
Yeah.
Since this news happened, because I knew what it was going to be.
I got that flash of Katie Tour smiling. She couldn't contain herself, and I thought, oh my God, no thanks.
They were going to transition into the next dramatic storyline and speculation.
Yeah.
Because that's what remember we talked about last week, what this was really about was not actually getting rid of Joe Biden, but creating the dramatic storyline of the Democrats.
It's a reality TV show that impacts your lives and might usher in Nazis. But hey, it's all fun for these folks.
You've worked in film and movies and television and all that kind of stuff. So you will, if I get this knowledge wrong, please correct me. Joe Biden was only a 4-episode arc of the election season. He wasn't the main centerpiece of the storyline that the media wants to go with. The media wants to go with Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the character that was established that they had to get out of the way first. Now the media gets to focus on who's the new character going to be. And then the next set of storylines is, what about that new character? And then the final storyline is, can the Kamala Harris or the upstart Democratic nominee beat Donald Trump? Or will Donald Trump return to the White House and make history? You can see the whole storyline mapped out.
Right. I would say that the speaking from a producer's point of view, Joe Biden bored the media because he was really effective. He never did anything that was shocking. The only thing they could go with was his gaffes, which he's been making his entire political career because he has a lifelong stutter. So that was all. He was boring to them because he was a good guy. He was decent. You notice who they cast in reality TV shows? It's not it's not a house full of decent people. They look for sociopaths. They look for psychopaths. They look for personality disorder type people who will allow themselves to be dissected by the media for profit, which is really sad when you think about the individuals who are dealing with some kind of psychological issue that they should be allowed to deal with in private, but they're being taken apart in public for profit. And that's what the media wants in the political realm. That is the opposite of what serves the people. So we have a clashing here.
You've just described Donald Trump.
Right, Donald Trump was the perfect reality TV show person. I wouldn't call him a
Candidate.
star. Yes, a candidate, and he gives them the show that they crave. I think they don't realize that people have been turned off to Donald Trump's show and they're sickened by it, and the media's not going to get ratings by playing Donald Trump. And they saw that, didn't they? The RNC.
Yeah.
So the media's over there like, oh, you pushed Joe Biden out and your cash cow isn't doing so well. I don't know what they're going to do with that. And it was really great that Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance, by the way.
Yeah.
We got these two frat boy douches. Pardon my language, but that's the vibe they give off. They're the men that if you saw them at a party, you would go in the other direction as a woman. Like, you're not gonna trust either one of those men around your daughter, around yourself. You're not gonna trust them. They picked, so there's nothing exciting happening over there.
Trump picked Vance when he thought this election was in the bag.
Right, maybe Joe Biden set them up.
And
That would be very Joe Biden-ish.
and now this election's not in the bag anymore.
Yeah, that would be very Joe Biden-ish, though. He's a very good strategist.
I've already seen echoes that the Trump campaign is freaking out because everything they had mapped out for the rest of the campaign is now useless.
I saw the RNC's attack on Kamala Harris, and it was so weak. I literally laughed out loud. Their attack was, how can she be trusted when she covered up Joe Biden's health issues? I was like, is that what you're bringing to this election?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
I mean, let's be honest. Harris is going to get young people excited again. I mean, they weren't excited about either choice. Now younger voters might feel like they have a candidate in the race.
See, I agree with you, and yet that thinking just really disturbs me.
Doesn't it disturbing?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, the ageism that we've seen, and then the way that is no one teaching young people that you don't get a Barack Obama that doesn't happen. You don't get Mr. Charisma, young person as your president every time, and they're not always the best people. I mean, Barack Obama was really good for his time, but he wouldn't have been the right person after Donald Trump and after the pandemic. And Joe Biden was the perfect person. And maybe now Kamala Harris is the perfect person because we've now entered into the post-convicted felon era of this show.
Yeah, I think that people expect too much. You're right, especially younger people.
They do.
And people that have been around a little while understand that the Joe Biden types are the presidents that are really unique. The
That's
people
right.
that are really talented, really competent,
He got so much done.
come in, keep their heads down, and do really big things.
This is true in every line of work. I've said this over and over again when I worked in film, I worked with A-list movie stars, and they were all good, decent, nice people to work with, down to earth. It was the people who were beneath them that were never going to have big careers who were the jerks. Always. It was just, it just went on and on. It was always true. And here it is in politics, the same thing. We have this thing where we've been taught through Trumpism and through reality TV, the rise of reality TV, which, by the way, was started as a get-around to put unions out of work. So there you go. This is all coming full circle now. It makes a lot of sense. But there's the rise of sort of like the narcissism, just to be drawn to narcissists instead of drawn to people who are doing good work. And that's what you're talking about a little bit, I think, when you say people who keep their head down like Joe Biden to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, there are presidents that have really left a lasting legacy on the country, and a lot of them never get their credit for they had accomplishments that never really get credited. Obama was the rare exception in somebody who had the personality and the charisma and had the accomplishments. That is not the normal.
Yeah, that's not normal.
I mean, you have before Obama, everybody compares him to Reagan, which is justified because you got to go back to Reagan, who was the previous chancellor president. But then once you get behind Reagan, you have to go back to Roosevelt. Those presidents don't happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
The Harry Truman, Joe Biden, and those kind of presidents that come in and do effective things, but only don't get credit because maybe they don't look the part or they don't act the part. They're a lot more common than, and Trump is just this amalgamation of everything that's bad about modern politics that the candidates are evaluated by. Trump is the post-fact, post-accomplishment. I'm going to take advantage of division and polarization, and hey, kids, let's put on a show.
And so, what's interesting about when you're talking about younger voters and they say they care about climate change, right? And here is President Biden with his Justice 40 initiative, which just was brought up this, I think it was yesterday that I did a White House call. I've lost track of the date. No, it was Friday. Yeah, I'm so upset. I don't know what day it is. Justice 40 initiative is President Biden's initiative where the federal government made a goal that 40% of the benefits of federal climate and clean energy and sustainable housing and other investments, they would flow to disadvantaged communities. You don't get any more progressive than that. And yet nobody talks about that, and they don't identify that with him because he's not a young person. I mean, that to me is talk about not talk about judging a book by its cover. The man is in his 80s and he did this.
Well, there's apparently only room for one old progressive in America, and that's Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Nobody else can take credit for anything, which, speaking of Bernie, like his group put out a statement saying they hope that Vice President Harris will stick to the same progressive agenda that President Biden has. Like, progressives are the ones just part of one of the groups that stuck with Biden because they see what Biden has done.
AOC.
Yeah, the progressives were the squad was all in on Biden.
It's been really interesting, kind of a realignment happening there as well. Like, just, I think a lot of people are still feeling the burns from the burns literally from 2016, and yet there was Bernie Sanders has been out there supporting President Biden his whole presidency.
Yeah.
Has been a good advocate, a good surrogate. I'm going to wrap this up now because it is getting late.
Like 20 minutes ago. But
I said I was going to wrap it up 20 minutes ago. So leave your questions for us on the Substack. It's the daily Politicus by Sarah Jones and Jason Easley. You can leave your questions there and we will answer them. We'll try to do another podcast this week because obviously there's so much going on right now that it's going to be insane. And let me just tell you, if Kamala Harris doesn't get this nomination, the Democratic Party better be prepared to be burned to the ground. So this is Sarah Jones on the Politicus pod for Politicus USA's The Daily. And if you are tired of billionaires controlling the news that you see and running your candidates out of elections and the media corporations embracing fascism, support independent news like us that puts the people first by subscribing to our Substack. And thank you so much to everyone who is a subscriber.